from the writer of The Devil Wears Prada is written onto the poster of 27 Dresses, the movie we are covering today. It essentially could say, not your mother's rom-com. This is going to be a rom-com with a lot of fun fashion and with more than a hint of cynicism. Written and directed and edited all by women, this 2008 film was made for $30 million and brought in $162.7 million. It got mostly negative reviews. Peter Howell from the Toronto Star said that the film, quote, shamelessly trades on the hoariest of chick flick cliches. He also criticized Eileen Brosh McKenna, the screenwriter, for filling the script with, quote, cheap gags instead of the savage wit and genuine insight she brought to the shallowness of modern life in The Devil Wears Prada. I agree with the reviews. I usually pause at this point in an opening essay to tell you how much I love the movie we are about to cover. But I do not think that 27 Dresses is a good movie. I love Katherine Heigl and James Marsden, the romantic hero in the movie. I also love Aileen Brosh McKenna, who went on to write Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and the director, Anne Fletcher, who also directed Step Up, The Proposal, and Dumplin', 3 movies I adore. And yet, I am always in the mood to watch 27 Dresses, as lukewarm as I am about it. I watched it this past weekend, and I'll watch it again right now. The clothes are so pretty. Katherine Heigl, James Marsden, Judy Greer, Edward Burns, Malin Ackerman. Who am I mad at here? No one. It is a charm sauce that has been burnt, but whatever, it still goes down easy. And to this day, it is generally considered a deeply beloved film. The movie is about Jane Nichols, always a bridesmaid. We meet her on the harried night in which she is a bridesmaid at 2 weddings.
You were in 2 weddings in one night, weren't you? It's a little upsetting, don't you think?
Well, they're both really, really good friends of mine, and their weddings happen to be on the same night, so what was I supposed to do?
Oh, no, that's not the upsetting part. How do you stand it? I mean, isn't one wedding bad enough?
I love weddings. I always have.
Kevin Doyle, a wedding section writer for a New York Times type paper, catches her charade of going back and forth and becomes interested in writing about her in order to advance his career and get out of wedding section writing hell.
But it won't just be about her. It'll be an incisive look at how the wedding industry has transformed something that should be an important rite of passage into nothing more than a corporate revenue stream. In a fun, upbeat, cheerful way.
In the meantime, Jane's sister, Tess, comes to stay with Jane during a break from her modeling career. Jane has had a crush on her boss, George, for years. But as soon as Tess comes into town, there is a whirlwind romance, and George and Tess become engaged. Jane now has to be maid of honor to her sister, who is marrying the man that she, Jane, loves. Kevin pretends to write about Tess and George's wedding in order to secretly write about perennial bridesmaid Jane. While doing research to secretly write about Jane, Kevin and Jane begin to sort of fall for each other, I guess. Kevin is trying to teach Jane that it's okay to have limits and okay to say no.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to practice, all right? We're going to practice saying no. You think I'm kidding? Turn around. We're going to play this game. Come on. Humor me. All right, Jane, give me $50.
No.
Jane, it's $50. I'll pay you back.
No.
Jane resists this lesson, but the two begin to enjoy spending time together. Kind of. Jane and Kevin begin to fall in love over such wonderful rom-com tropes as a fashion montage and a drunken karaoke incident turned into one-night stand.
Ready, 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 ready.
But of course, it all hits the fan. Jane, after sleeping with Kevin, finds the article that skewers her in the paper and realizes that he's been lying to her all along. Jane, in her rage, tells the whole wedding party that Tess has been lying to George. Jane is not only not a bride, but not even a good bridesmaid anymore.
The wedding's off. I hope you're happy.
It is only when Jane finally gets the chance to kiss George, the object of her affection for 5 years, that something clicks for her.
Jane, I am so thankful that I could call you tonight. I can always count on you. You never say no, which I love.
What?
And that is when Jane realizes that A, she really liked kissing Kevin, and B, she likes that Kevin wants her to say no. She takes a literal leap onto a wedding boat, the last wedding that Kevin is covering in his old post as wedding reporter, and proclaims her love.
Kevin, I've been waiting my whole life for the right guy to come along, and then you showed up, and you were nothing like the man I imagined. You're cynical and cranky and impossible. But the truth is, fighting with you is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
They get married, and all 27 of the dresses that she had to wear to other people's weddings get worn by her bridesmaids to hers. Part of what is so fun about this movie is obviously the fashion. If Devil Wears Prada was about fashion magazines, 27 Dresses is a fashion magazine. Director Anne Fletcher told the costume designer Catherine Marie Thomas that she wanted big, ugly, and bright. Every color palette, every style of bridesmaid dress and suit. And we get a full several-minute scene that is just looking at these clothes. And all of the clothes in the movie are amazing. I would wear each of Jane's outfits and shop at all of the stores that we see her register at, and live in her gorgeous New York City apartment that she can afford on an assistant's salary. And that is absolutely part of the delight of the movie. It is rom-com. But because I don't buy the love story in this movie, even though I really do like to watch them kiss, I always trip over the same question. Is this movie a cynical ploy, manipulating women by patronizing us with flashy nonsense? Or is it just acknowledging that sometimes in a rom-com, the love story is beside the point? And so is this movie respectful of women by just giving us what we actually want? Either way, for me, at different moments, it lands as both respectful of what I really want and cynical about how dumb I am. In order to talk about this 2008 classic, we have a special guest, Sophie Gilbert. Sophie is a staff writer at The Atlantic. She won the 2024 National Magazine Award for Reviews and Criticism and was a finalist for the 2022 Pulitzer Prize in Criticism. She is the author of On Womanhood, Bodies, Literature, and Choice, and Girl on Girl, How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves, an analysis of 21st century popular culture's influence on women, which is out today. I'm Vanessa Zoltan.
I'm Sophie Gilbert.
And this is Hot and Bothered. Sophie, thank you so much for coming, and happy pub day to your book. This is so exciting. Girl on Girl, How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves. So nice of you to write this book specifically for our audience.
Thank you. Yes, I was absolutely like what I had in mind when I was working on it. No, I mean, the project, I think our projects are so well aligned in terms of revisiting things to see what we make of them from our current perspective and what is sort of shining out now that wasn't at the time. But yeah, it's wonderful to be here.
So since you have written sort of the book on the topic of our podcast so generously, we're actually just going to have you stick around at the end and be our end of episode expert. But for now, we're going to actually just treat you like a regular guest, and we're going to talk about 27 Dresses. So 2008, 27 Dresses comes out. How do you feel about this movie?
I remember seeing it and feeling like it was sort of, charming fluff. Like, I don't remember having very strong opinions about it. I don't think I loved it. I don't think I had any problems with it in the time. I've been a big Katherine Heigl fan, so I think earliest days of Grey's Anatomy were very important to me.
I predate you. I loved My Father the Hero.
Oh, wow.
Like, she was my first crush, and it was very intense. She's, I think, 16 in that movie, and I was like 12 when I saw it.
I still haven't seen that, so I have to revisit that at some point.
So I don't think it's good, but so good.
So much of what I love about this era is exactly that. It's like, in no way is it good, but it's great.
Exactly.
But this one, I don't know. I was surprised, I think, in the rewatch by how much I disliked James Marsden's character.
Yeah.
How common this theme was across the 2000s of women when they were present having to redeem kind of terrible men, like beautiful, very accomplished women in lots of, like, with so much going for them in so many ways, finding love with men who required sort of changing. And the motif was always like, don't worry if he's a jerk. He won't be a jerk forever. Like, you can bring him around. You can, like, trust that the jerky guys might be redeemed by love. And I just don't believe that now with the wisdom of age.
Yeah. Yeah, I similarly remember thinking it was fun. And, like, I feel like this movie is on whenever you go to a hotel.
That's so true.
And I have never been able to tear my eyes away from it. Once it's on in the background, I'm in. And yet, Jane is a character.
Mm-hmm.
I, like, don't even understand what the movie thinks she is. Like, is she a pushover who always says yes to everyone, who's desperate to get married? If so, why is she immediately so put off by Kevin, the James Marsden character? Like, the movie really just, like, doesn't seem to have a sense of who she is. And I think I always watch the movie confused because I find Katherine Heigl so beautiful and commanding and do not know how this movie wants me to feel about her.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because in some ways, as lovely as she is to watch, as much like incredible charisma as she has on screen, I think it's kind of miscasting maybe because she is supposed to be this sort of mousy,
yes,
help me, like, submissive character. But the thing that's so great about Katherine Heigl is she has this, like, quite bitchy, surly energy.
Yes.
And it comes out in moments during the movie, like when she aggressively eats a pig in a blanket. Like, you see this side of her that's sort of, like, thrillingly, like, F you. And it's like one of my favorite things about her as a performer, but it does not fit the character at all. It just doesn't work in so many ways. So I think that's why it feels like such a mishmash, because there's just this sort of tension.
And, like, that she's supposed to be the dowdy sister.
I know.
Like, obviously there are different kinds of pretty, and I understand that the sister is cast as more of a, like, supermodel pretty, but I'm like, you can't tell me that Katherine Heigl isn't supermodel pretty. Like, you can't tell me that my eyes aren't seeing what I'm seeing. Like, we're supposed to think that Katherine Heigl has an inappropriate relationship to food and is, like, too big in this movie.
Yeah, it's weird too, because one of the ways that they try to, I think, de-glamorize her or to mute her, she sort of doesn't really wear any makeup. But even, I mean, she's still obviously like a knockout, but it does speak to kind of what the beauty standards of the era were at the time. Like, oh, she's not wearing makeup. Okay, all right, she's plain. Like, it's fine. Whereas, and then she comes to see George and she's wearing, like, she's dressed for the gala and she has makeup on and he's like, wow. And I'm like, there's no difference.
There's no difference. So what do you think that this movie believes about love?
I mean, I sort of spoiled it already, but I do think this is sort of one of a real chain of movies that we got around this era that were basically about lovely women redeeming less lovely men. And especially in Heigl's career, like, you see it so much in Knocked Up, you see it so much in The Ugly Truth, which, God, what a movie. She's always kind of the type A, uptight, accomplished, professional, knockout foil to this kind of like schlubby, douchey, or like in this case, very cynical and I don't believe in love, man. And I think the idea is that not just that she can redeem the man, but that she herself has to change. Like she has to lower her standards. She has to sort of stop pining for the perfect man and like realize that she might actually be happy with a less than perfect man, which I don't know that rom-coms necessarily. I don't know that that's the message that we choose to watch them for. And it's one of the reasons why the movies of this era are always kind of dissatisfying to me.
I obviously don't disagree with you. I just read it differently. I think that is how the movie is coded. And yet what is in the script is don't marry someone who wants you to say yes to them all the time. Like a person should love you even if you have boundaries with them, right? And like that is technically what Kevin is coaching Jane to do throughout the movie. He's like, you give too much of yourself. You are literally trying to be in two places at once. Please say no to me and I will love you for you, even if you say no to me, right? The moment where she realizes that she's not in love with George, but that she's in love with Kevin is when George says to her, that's what I love about you, Jane. You always say yes to me. And she's like, ew. And I think that you really nailed it of like, there's just something great about Katherine Heigl's energy that like, she doesn't come off as a yes person. So you're like, this doesn't feel like an emotional arc.
Yeah.
And Kevin seems like such a cynical asshole that even though it turns out that he was sort of like a good guy all along, it does feel like what she has to learn is that like you can't have it all in a guy. But the movie technically is saying that this guy who seems virtuous is actually kind of an asshole who wants to take advantage of Jane all the time. And the schlubby guy is actually a good guy who cries at weddings, is a romantic, and has just been, like, just has baggage.
Yeah, the movie doesn't really make that case very well, I think. Like, I do agree with you. I mean, theoretically, yes, absolutely. But like, when she's like, fighting with you is the most fun I've ever had. I'm like, but we haven't seen any of this. Like, we haven't seen any repartee. Like, there's no chemistry between them. There are no, Kevin, I mean, what does Kevin do for her? He gives her a BlackBerry. I'm like, he brings her Filofax back. He stalks her with Post-its. He writes a horribly unethical story about her. Like, he's sort of abusive to her in many, many ways. So in terms of the charm or the fact that he's like giving her insight into what she actually really needs in a relationship, like maybe yes, but he is not providing it. Like he is this real absence of a sort of heroic character.
And then teases her the morning after they have super drunk sex.
Which gross in so many ways. I
know. Like the scene that's supposed to redeem their love, right, is the Benny and the Jets karaoke singing on top of the bar scene. There's like a belief that your drunk self is your true self. And therefore, if you love each other while drunk, then that's true love.
I don't know. I find the Benny and the Jet, it's my least favorite scene in the whole movie because the song is good, but it's not the song you like get up on the bar and really jam to. It doesn't work at all. It doesn't function as the scene that is supposed to sort of spell out their mutual attraction and their mutual fascination.
Them not knowing the lyrics, I find very charming. They're like fake lyrics moment before the performance really starts. There are like 3 scenes, right, where I think we're supposed to see them as like falling in love. One of them is where they are registering for Tess's stuff and they're having this argument about the wedding industrial complex where she is saying, registries are really important. You think that this is all just nonsense crap. I think this is the casserole dish that Tess is gonna, make X, Y, and Z for. And he is like, this is all just crap. And actually what you said is a lie too, right? Like Tess isn't gonna make the casserole. You're gonna make the casserole. And I think we're supposed to think, oh, wow, the truth lies somewhere between them. And yet the way that the scene resolves is that, to your point earlier, like he corrupts her.
Yeah.
He sort of wins this conversation and she's like, do you want to go around and register for the ugliest stuff in the store together.
You're right. It's kind of, you can really see Jane's projection, I suppose, of like what marriage means to her, and so much of it I think is supposed to be coming from her childhood and the loss of her mother and the craving for this home life that she had really, really wanted for so long, and what that means to her. So I mean, that part of it is like obviously sweet, but the dynamic between the two of them, I just don't know, guys. I just don't know.
Well, then the big scene that I think we're supposed to see them as falling in love, right, is the trying on of the 27 dresses.
27 dresses.
And that whole scene is him exploiting her.
I know. Isn't it great?
Like, he is taking photos of her in each dress for his article.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in theory, she thinks that they're like doing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really don't even understand what her motivation is, but there's something about it that like gets them to like break down to a more vulnerable place in them, where she is like, I don't know, gives her speech where she's like, well, I'm there for all these women because one day they will be there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm like, that is transactional and like not at all about anything that matters. We don't see her even be in a wedding of someone who she cares about.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
It's even insulting to bridesmaids, Sophie.
it's insulting to brides. Like, no one would pick dresses this ugly. Like, I mean, the thing that was really funny to me when I was reading about the movie is that they got all the dresses on eBay and in thrift stores and stuff. But even then, they weren't ugly enough because Katherine Heigl was so beautiful. So they had to add all these like frills and tulle and extra details to like uglify the dresses, which was kind of charming. I don't know. I mean, I always love a good movie montage. Like, I'm such a sucker for movie tropes. And
Me too.
It's kind of fun to see her dancing around.
Oh my God, yes.
But you're right that he is fundamentally lying to her. He is undercover. He hasn't told her what he's doing. He's lied to her about the project of his reporting. He's this like very unethical journalist who is tricking her in many ways and being duplicitous and setting her up for this sort of public shaming. For what? I mean, the idea that anyone would publish a story and be like, a woman has been a bridesmaid 27 times. Ha ha ha, what a loser. Like, that's not what we do.
In what world would that be breaking news? That would be reifying every norm that culture had. It's interesting also because the thing, lying and truth is what we're supposed to judge Tess for.
Mm-hmm.
So Tess, Jane's sister, sort of catches George, Jane's boss, played by Ed Burns. And the reason that that relationship explodes is because Tess has been lying to George the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're supposed to think Tess is a villain for lying to George about things like that she likes dogs and that she's a vegetarian. But it turns out that it's okay to lie if it's about your career and exploiting the object of your desire. So really, I mean, and I guess this is getting into like the subtext of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The subtext of the movie is that like men are allowed to lie and women aren't. Men can lie for their careers, but women can't lie to catch a man.
Yeah, I don't know how the movie feels about Kevin's lying exactly. Like, it definitely sets it up as this huge betrayal. I think what is a little disappointing to me is that she just kind of shrugs it off, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
To me, it's the kind of betrayal so colossal that I could never get over it. I would have a voodoo doll of Kevin. But yeah, it's just funny how the movie kind of, it's the major conceit, I would say, of the middle half, and then it just goes away.
And he doesn't even do an effective apology or an effective grovel, right? I mean, to your point earlier, he like buys her a BlackBerry. Tess gets punished for her lies a lot more than Kevin does for his much bigger lies.
Yeah.
Tess gets humbled completely, right? She like moves to Brooklyn
Oh my God.
with several roommates.
She has no money.
Whereas Kevin gets a promotion and gets the girl.
Yeah.
I mean, and what he does in the 27 dresses scene, it's not just exploitative and lying. Like, I cannot imagine how invaded I would feel if I was trying on something in my home, in private, in front of like someone who I kind of thought of as a friend, and those photos got exposed publicly, right? There's also something just like truly disgusting in that like private-public dynamic around photographs.
Yeah, this is a big part of my book. How much the nature of celebrity changed and the nature of women being exposed, especially, changed from sort of the mid-90s onwards. I mean, there was very much, I think, the idea coming across in media that women did not have the right to a private life. And you can see it in like the selling of Pamela Anderson's sex tape, which was stolen from her house. And the lawyers telling her that because she'd been sexy in public, like she'd posed for Playboy, she had no right to protest, basically. And then it was really the beginning of this kind of industrial paparazzi phase where women were stalked by photographers, women in the public eye, you know, and there was no sense of respect for people's children. There was no sense of respect for the fact that people might be having mental health issues. It was just this very aggressive moment of like photographers lying down on the ground to like, take pictures of women's dresses to try and catch what was really like non-consensual porn. And there was this idea that like women's bodies were just in the public domain. That was just how it was. And especially if you were a celebrity, anytime you went outside, that was on you. Even I think Jennifer Aniston once was photographed sunbathing topless in her own garden. And the photographer had like climbed a tree. So there was just like no... It's sort of interesting to think about this scene in context because obviously Jane is not famous, but the movie does seem to be picking up on this moment in time where women sort of had no safe space, really. Even in their own home, he's coming in there and he's taking pictures of her and he's violating her. And, you know, she knows he's taking pictures, but the purpose of those photos is entirely unclear to her. And I think at the time we had no language to describe sort of how the meaning of photographs had changed over the course of the decade. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of theme to untangle with regard to the movie.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we learning about our theme of 2008? What about this movie are you like, yes, 2008?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this was really the moment when rom-coms, I think, went on life support. And you'd sort of seen iterations of them over the course of the 2000s, like 2 Weeks Notice, I think was one of the more charming ones.
I love that movie.
Yeah, me too. But this was the moment when things got, I don't know, just kind of bitter toward women, I think. And unfortunately for Katherine Heigl, who, as I have said, I love, like she's in so many of the movies that really seem to kind of ring the bell for the end of the rom-com, like Knocked Up, obviously, The Ugly Truth, 27 Dresses. They're just all movies that I think fail what a rom-com is supposed to do. And a rom-com fundamentally is supposed to see women through a female gaze, appreciate women in their full humanity, and assert that they are themselves enough, worthy of love. Like, it's almost the one product, I would say, along with romantic fiction, that always inserts this like female perspective, and it's made for women, but also it's not made for women by men. Even if it is, there's this understanding that our gaze is paramount, and we're sort of catered to by the genre, I think, in a way that is quite rare in entertainment. But this trio of movies, like, they just don't really feel like they like women that much. I'm curious to hear what you think on that, along those lines.
Yeah, I'm really interested in why Katherine Heigl's career sort of has like switched to caretaking of dogs over the last 10 years, as far as I can tell. And I do think in large part that it's because she said my character in Knocked Up is kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
And like male Hollywood was like, oh, that makes you high maintenance to work with.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah, of course.
It's so much of what was in the sort of the motivation for me wanting to write this book, to revisit the era, was trying to understand why women felt like they couldn't push back against the sort of sexism and the misogyny of the era. And like, certainly I felt that in my own life. Like, there was just no counter narrative to the prevailing idea that like women were supposed to be sexy and quiet. And to me, that Katherine Heigl Vanity Fair interview where she comes out and she doesn't say anything egregious. She's like, yeah, that movie's a little sexist. And then she was berated by Judd Apatow, by Seth Rogen. It was seen as this massive betrayal of like the bro code, and like the fact that they had like let her be in the film and then she'd come out and criticized it. And to me, it's so exemplary of what was going on, which was like, there was no way as a woman to push back against the sexism of this moment, because when you did, you were cast out, like you were shunned. You were seen as a scold, a nag, like the uncool girl. You weren't allowed to be a part of the crowd.
Yeah.
You were just sort of like kicked off the island, so to speak. And And I think what happened to her was obviously so unfair, but it was also very much in line with like what happened to any woman who dared to sort of to protest in this era.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so one of the things that's so 2008 about this movie is that Katherine Heigl was still able to be a star.
Yeah.
Because she hadn't yet done that Vanity Fair interview. The thing to me that's just like very 2008 about this is its relationship to queerness. She was in 27 weddings in and around New York City, and none of them were gay. This is just like the straightest movie ever.
Yeah.
Just like the absence of like anything actually queer coded is so funny to me. I just think like statistically it would be really hard to be a part of 27 events in New York City and have none of them be gay or a little bit queer.
Yeah.
So
you're right. There's not a single gay character, is there? There's like no. It's just the most heterosexual movie of all time. That's like.
But like the one that really gets me is the suits, right? Where it's like men wore dresses, women wore suits. And it's like supposed to be funny about like how crazy and like wacky that couple was. It's like really just a joke about
nothing.
Well, about like how dumb the wedding industrial complex is in terms of like shtick and themes, right?
Yeah.
It actually still seems to be making fun of women, that like women will go to any extreme to have their wedding feel different, so much so that they'll even wear a suit.
Yeah.
But it still seems to be making fun of straight women.
It's interesting too because the movie doesn't actually get at any of the real anxiety that I think a lot of women feel about getting married, which is mostly about like, will I find someone to marry? Like, will I be alone? Or will I like find the person who I want to spend the rest of my life with, who I want to commit to? And the movie touches on none of that, which I think is like quite a profound impulse, or at least in this moment was quite a profound impulse for like certain kinds of women in their late 20s. It's just much more about weddings, like weddings, but not in a kind of sort of tear down way. It's sort of, it doesn't really take an opinion. It's like, it's almost making fun of weddings, but it's not really, because they, you know, they mean so much, and Jane loves them, and even Kevin secretly is moved at weddings. So it's sort of this very like wishy-washy stand, I guess, on the wedding industrial complex. It's not really taking it down.
I know. The confidence with which at the end of the montage scene, she says, "'Cause one day it'll be my turn." I was like, oh, that is not how I felt at 29.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, oh, good for you, Jane.
It's her dream.
And that's the problem with Sex and the City too, though, right? I lived in New York in my 20s, and everybody was having a hard time finding a date. And no one in Sex and the City ever seems to have a hard time finding someone to date.
I know. I lived in New York in 2007 too, as well. And like, I think I went on one date, and it was with a semi-professional gambler who lived in New Jersey.
I went on a date with a semi-professional gambler who lived in New Jersey.
It was a terrible date. Like,
mine
terrible.
too.
Yeah.
And like maybe, I mean, definitely in the mid-aughts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's probably a number of semi-professional gamblers who live in New Jersey. Like, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
But that would we could actually do a rom-com about this. That would be hilarious. But yeah, like one date during my year and a half in grad school, it's not, you know, you're going out every night and like, hi at the bar, and in the way that they make it look.
Yeah, not in my experience. So, Sophie, we have a regular segment on our podcast called the Emergency Stop Button. And as our guest, you get to hit it. Mm-hmm. What would you like to emergency stop this episode to talk about?
I am sort of troubled by the Pedro scene. I mean, obviously, it's not like the movie is presenting Tess's hiring Pedro as a cleaner as a good thing. I mean, I think it's the final death knell in her relationship with George. Like, he's like, what the hell? But it's not, I mean, it's awful in ways that are really hard to wrap your head around, I think, from now. Like, especially because she seems to be implying that because he's Latino, like, those are his aspirations. And she's like, not only does she hire him to clean, she's going to help him to set up a cleaning business. It's just, it's such a loaded kind of throwaway moment in the movie. And I just can't quite tease it out. It really, to me, makes Tess like fundamentally horrific and unforgivable and unredeemable. The fact that she does this, even more so than like all the other horrific stuff that she does. It's just like, is this what she thinks of this child who is like the closest brother, like little sibling of her fiance? It's very strange.
I think it would be less disturbing if they didn't make Pedro be the one who sort of reintroduces George and Tess at the end of the movie.
Right. By saying that she's hot.
Yeah, being like, hey, Tess looks hot, huh?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you put in the mouth of the babe, who was like the biggest victim of this white lady, that like it's okay to still see her as a sexual and heteronormative 2008 land, therefore romantic interest. And like Pedro sort of blesses that without any real recompense for the fact that, like, not that you can ever take the racial element out of anything, but like she hired a child.
Yeah.
This is just illegal. In addition to being racist and like teaching a young Latino kid that like there's a lane for him and that it's within the world of cleaning. It's also just racist because it's, right, like there is a racial stereotype that Latino men want to sexualize women all the time too, right? So like the fact that Pedro is like, hey, Tess looks good.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just gross on every
creepy
level. Leave this child alone.
Yeah. Pour up justice for Pedro. The other thing I wanted to ask you is if you have a sense of what George's company Urban Everest does.
Yes, I think it makes catalogs for Patagonia.
That's so interesting because I read online, someone thought it was a magazine. And I had thought too that it was like this outdoor wear, like sustainable jacket, but you don't actually see any of the products, or it's kind of like George is this multimillionaire entrepreneur who set up his business before he was 30 and it's thriving. But what does it do? What does it do?
Sustainable photography.
Sustainable it's not a thing. It's not a thing.
No, I know.
It's not a thing. And yeah, it's like women in rom-coms, they don't get like a wide variety of jobs. So it's sort of interesting to have Jane be an assistant. I do think it fits her character throughout the movie. But yeah, I've sort of sitting puzzling out what Urban Everest is.
There's such an insulting line about assistants at the end of this movie too, where she's like, and my replacement will have this job for 2 years, which is the appropriate amount of time for someone to be an assistant. I'm like, actually, being an assistant is a really hard job. Some people really enjoy being excellent at this very hard job. It is not just a way for young white women to like climb a corporate ladder. And it's a weird way for people to climb a corporate ladder because it's a unique set of skills that aren't necessarily transferable to other places. And so actually, like, it's even insulting to assistants.
I love this so much. This like deep overthinking of the movie's flaws is so fun.
To be clear, I will watch it when we get off the phone.
Of course.
Okay, please finish the sentence for me, Sophie.
Okay.
You should watch this movie if
you want justice for Katherine Heigl and her surly, cranky, incredibly charismatic energy. I will make a confession here that once, I think in 2006, when I was drunk, I read a mean like gossip blog post about Katherine Heigl and got so offended I like wrote this really long email defending her to the gossip blogger, and I won't say who it was, you can probably guess, but I was like, how dare you, she's an incredible performer. But yeah, I think she's great on screen. She never got the roles she deserved. If you love Katherine Heigl, there's lots in this movie for you, and she is just so charming, and her hair is brown for a change, so enjoy that.
There you go. That's how you know she's ugly. I think that you should watch this movie if you love James Marsden, but usually he's just like too handsome for you. You're like, nobody likes anyone that handsome. They scruff him up a bit in this movie, and so you can stare directly at the sun because like the costuming is so bad that you're like, no, it's okay how chiseled your jaw is.
James Marsden was on my flight once from London to LA, and I've never really gotten over it.
So you know James Marsden?
Yes, we're best friends.
So usually we get an expert on the phone for our end of episode calls, but we already had an expert on the phone, so we thought, why waste the energy of dialing twice? So, Sophie, your book is called Girl on Girl: How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves. The book covers a lot. I'm going to mostly ask you questions about how your book pertains to 2008. But before we jump into that, I would just love for you to talk at first about what inspired you to write this book.
Yeah, so I pitched the book around 2022, and it was right after Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Mm-hmm.
I just had the sense that things had gone very wrong for women. You'd had obviously Hillary Clinton losing the presidential election, and then the Me Too moment, which really made it seem that, like, even though women were doing well in the workforce, we were still subject to pretty horrific conditions. COVID, I think, really made it clear how unequal parenting dynamics still were and how much women were being forced to do the second shift at home. Just how feminism in so many ways seemed to have failed. And because I'm a cultural critic, there were lots of people sort of passing the political dynamics of this time. But I was always curious about culture, and I've always been curious about how culture shapes identity and sense of self, but also ambitions and our ideas about what we are capable of. So one example in the book is looking at this moment in 2007 when Britney shaved her head, Anna Nicole Smith overdosed and died, Paris went to jail, Nicole Richie went to jail, Lindsay went to rehab, Jamie Lynn Spears, I think, announced she was pregnant. It was just like dominoes toppling. It was like beautiful woman/girl after beautiful woman/girl in crisis, stalked by cameras. And there was very much this pervasive theme across culture that women were train wrecks, like, were not capable, could not be trusted, were like failing at the project of celebrity, failing at the project of being rich and beautiful and famous, which was supposed to be like every person's dream. And it was also, 2007 was also the year that Hillary Clinton first announced that she was running for president. And so I've always been curious about just what that particular confluence of things did to us. I just sort of had this suspicion that culture might have turned us against our own kind, if that makes sense. And so that was my motivation for going back to really dive deep into the archives of the era.
We've talked about post-feminism some on this show already, but given that it's a cornerstone of your book, I'm wondering if you can just remind us what it means and where you see it.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky to explain because there was no one really waving the flag for post-feminism. It was more a kind of media construction that then became used as a mechanism to sell things, like, very successfully. So in the early 90s, you had third wave feminism, which was this iteration of feminism that was kind of really trying to be inclusive, like trying to make up for second wave feminism's failings towards, like, women of color and underprivileged women by being much more inclusive in its thinking and its ambitions. And you really see things like Anita Hill's testimony against Clarence Thomas as kind of a pivotal third wave movement. The Year of the Woman in 1992, where women were sort of so outraged by what happened to Anita Hill that they ran for office in these kind of record numbers and were elected. Third wave feminism, to me, culturally is very much tied up with, like, the music of the era, the Riot Girl movement, which was really activist and had specific goals. It wanted, like, safer treatment for women, you know, at punk shows specifically, but also on college campuses. It wanted women to be able to walk around at night safely. And it was sort of thrillingly creative, and it manifested in music and zines and all these, like, great cultural moments. And there was a lot of activist energy in among the rock artists of the time too, like Alanis Morissette, I always think of, but like Fiona Apple, Tori Amos, Sinead O'Connor, kind of these thrillingly angry women who were making music that was about being pissed off and, like,
Annie.
Yeah, what they wanted to change. And then something happened, and I'm sort of devastated because I love the Spice Girls, but the Spice Girls came along and they took the Riot Girl mantra of girl power and they just defanged it. They made it about nothing.
They made it sexy.
Yeah, they made it sexy, they made it fun, but it was that iteration of girl power to me embodies post-feminism because it's not about anything. It's like,
right.
Yeah, it's like, we've done it, girls. You know, we've got money now, we've got jobs, we've got cute little skirts and lip gloss, and we can go out and we can behave as rowdy as we want, and we can drink as much as we want, and we can have sex as much as we want. And it was, I think this particular ideology was, like, really just being sold by companies that wanted to sell us things. And the Spice Girls were very good saleswomen. And I think within the first year and a half of being a band, they had like $500 million worth in branding deals. And the minute that people saw how much women like that could sell products to teenage girls who were a very valuable demographic because they had all their babysitting money. That was when we ushered in really the era of Britney and Christina and the angry women who were making much less palatable, like much less commercial friendly rock. They were kind of edged out of the mainstream. I've sort of talked mostly about music, but post-feminism was the idea that, you know, women could be sexy and they should think about themselves more than anything else. Like the idea that you had a responsibility toward other women or that you should sort of organize to try and change things was really kicked to the curb. It was much more like celebrate your freedoms, enjoy life. It was this like very new millennial Sex and the City, celebratory, very beautiful in lots of ways, like dazzling energy, but it wasn't standing for anything.
Yeah. You write about porn as a stylistic mode of the early 2000s. Can you tell us what you mean by that and what you think led to it?
Yeah, I mean, what happened, I think, during the 90s was that porn became the dominant cultural product in America, but no one really talked about it. Even before the internet, VHS was basically like a technology for porn. I know we remember it as like we would go to Blockbuster and rent videos and it was fun and we'd have sleepovers and stuff, but most people, I think, were using VHS to watch porn. There was something like in 1985, there were 70 million pornographic VHS rentals in the US, but by the mid-90s, it was closer to 700 million. So it was really like this explosion in porn use, even before the internet. And then the internet happened. And then, of course, we all know what happened after that. And what happened was that although porn wasn't really analyzed so much in the mainstream, it became hugely culturally influential. And its tropes filtered into culture in really insidious ways. Like particularly in movies, you see this in the 90s, you see the trope of the kind of fetishized teenager, the babysitter, like the schoolgirl. And then as porn became sort of more and more culturally visible, you have this moment in the 2000s where it was just so chic. It was everywhere. Like I think Snoop Dogg had 2 hardcore porn videos where he was the MC. I mean, I should say he did not act in them, but he hosted 2 of the best-selling hardcore VHSs of the moment. There was this sort of really collaborative relationship between hip-hop and porn. DJ Yella from NWA became a porn director. That was his like second career. Porn was in fashion. There was a reality show, I think a short-lived one, where people could compete to become a porn star. Jenna Jameson's memoir was on the New York Times bestselling list. Like it was really culturally dominant. And what happened as a result of that, one of the sort of lesser known impacts was because porn was so suddenly culturally acceptable, the actual production of pornography itself, it had to become much more extreme. Because if you can see people naked on HBO, like you're not going to pay for porn unless it's offering you something that you're not getting at the movies or on your television. So it sort of impacted the sex industry in lots of ways.
Okay, so obviously you're tracking so many incredibly fascinating things in your book. How do you see a confluence of some of these things impacting the rom-coms that are coming out in 2008?
Yeah, I think what I was talking about earlier with regard to this sort of string of rom-coms coming along that didn't seem to like women very much or seemed to not really trust them, or certainly not to sort of trust them as agents of their own destiny. I think a lot of that was coming from this moment of real disdain for women and disgust in media. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, like the comments on posts about famous women during this moment, they were so mean. People were so mean. Like comments on Britney Spears' VMAs performance in 2008, I think, like it was just really monstrous. It was like, because the internet had come around so quickly, we didn't really understand that the people that we saw online were real people. They just felt kind of like characters. And I think we all got very numbed and very like overexposed to these details of people's lives that we really should never have been privy to. And I do think you can sort of sense, even though 27 Dresses, I have to say, was rare and that it was written, directed by women and its star was a woman, there's this sort of undercurrent of not really liking women very much that peaks out in moments. And so that's one of the things that, to me, makes this particular moment in movie making so interesting and so worthy of revisiting.
Sophie, thank you so much for rewatching 27 Dresses, coming on this podcast the week of the publication of your book, and then also just for this amazing book. I'm so excited for it to be out in the world.
Thank you. It has been such a pleasure. I mean, this entire week of roll up to the release has been very grueling. So it was nice to have this excuse to rewatch a very silly rom-com and have some downtime.
Thank you so much, Sophie. You've been listening to Hot and Bothered. We are a small show, so we need your support to run. If you can, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/hotandbotheredrompod. If you love the show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We are a Not Sorry production. Our executive producer is me, Vanessa Zoltan. We are edited and produced by Ariana Nettleman. My regular co-host is Hannah McGregor, and we are distributed by Acast. Thanks as always to our soulmate level patrons, Molly Reilly, who we would chase through an airport to declare our love to, Elizabeth Schweinsberg, whose heart we would play a game of one-on-one basketball for, Lauren Byer O'Connell, who we would call up on stage to dance with us in front of the whole summer camp, Claudia Hammerman, who we would give the whole door to float on, even if there was room for both of us, Avi Lichtenstein, who we would make every person in the kingdom try on a shoe for, Kristen Hall, who we would travel through a time portal to spend the 19th century with, Shiri Yadlin, who we would write a sonnet about and read it in front of the whole class, Delia Rose, who we are majorly, totally, but crazy in love with, and Leia Goldberg, who we would carry on our backs as we jump from tree to tree like a little spider monkey. And our team, Julia Argy, Nikki Zoltan, AJ Aramas, Courtney Brown, Danny Langley, Anissa Ahmed, and Stephanie Paulsell. Bye, everyone.